Before I begin this episode, I would like to acknowledge the two varied views of my listeners on this topic. There is the first category that believes in spare the rod, spoil the child, that spanking is necessary for child correction. And the other believes, as Kate Silverton puts it, there is no such thing as naughty, that a child is going through varying emotions and needs more empathy than a beating. Well, I am not here to debate who's right or wrong. We're not talking about that today. However, I would like to focus more on what's important, what the parent is trying to communicate through whatever method of discipline or child correction they choose. Please stay tuned as I share with you my own experience and my parents' life changing advice throughout my childhood.
Welcome to Growth Radio. On this platform, we believe that you don't have to learn things the hard way. Each week, we'll bring you a growth conversation with hopes to lower your learning curve in business, work, and general day-to-day life. My name is Kabwela, and I am your host. Let's deep dive.
Growing up, I never understood why I used to get spanked by my parents, even for the most ridiculous reasons. On most days, I'd be coming back from my usual childhood weekend getaways, and this would be like playing soccer in the neighborhood playfield from 7 in the morning to 5 p.m., or just hanging out in a bush nearby. As soon as my parents knew about where or who I was hanging out with, boom, a cooking stick or West belt was landing on my butt. No questions allowed, my friend, and responding to their questions was something you had to avoid because it was always considered a challenge. Being smart did not help me either. Surprisingly, after a beating, the same cooking stick would be used to prepare a meal. I guess they all loved the taste of my butt. Over the years, I have been reflecting on this childhood experience a lot and trying to understand why I always got into trouble with my parents. Many times in between sobs, I would ask myself, why would anyone spank their kid, the one they claim to love so much, the way my parents do? It was crazy. I think my siblings were cheering or crying or something. I cannot remember. It was almost like a wrestling match some days. Looking back, I think there is something that my parents were trying to communicate, an important life lesson. Please do not get me wrong here. I'm not trying to justify the method through which they tried to communicate this profound principle that I'm about to share with you, even though I wish they expressed it more clearly and explicitly. Things were good when both my parents were working. I went to a decent private school and lived in a good middle-class home in my early years. But a few years down the line, we had to relocate multiple times between low-income and middle-income communities when my dad lost his job. This was one of the most difficult times we went through as a family. And it was through all of this that my parents were trying to communicate one key message: that I free my mind from my immediate reality. They were constantly reminding me that this was not our destination. We were only passing. 7 out of 10 of my childhood peers are either in a gang or abusing substances. With each day that passes, their prospect of a bright future increasingly becomes non-existent. I would like to believe this is the doom that my parents wanted me to escape. Again, I'm not in support of the method of communication that was employed, yet I uphold this teaching dearly. In order to reinforce this idea, I have continued to seek information, build meaningful friendships, and relish relationships that help me soar beyond my immediate reality. T.D. Jakes once said, God's plan is always bigger than the reality of the individual. That's to say that my future and yours is beyond where we are today. One more thing. I cringe whenever I hear someone shoot down motivational speakers, personal development coaches, or self-help authors. This is because I understand the motivation and self-help corner is what has helped me escape the stereotypical narrative of a child that grew up in my community. I needed, and still do, More than ever, actually, guidance and voices to help me course correct along my journey. More importantly, I set out to consume as much content as I could find to help me stay on the right path. I urge you to seek and hold on to resources that will enable you to actualize God's plan for your life. You know where you're going, and you will need all the resources you can find.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you found this message uplifting or empowering, please share this channel with a friend and follow us wherever you're listening. This is Growth Radio, and my name is Kabwela.